恭敬大德圣听，为此一发挥，济一切众生。请转妙法轮教导我们如何了生，sorry out tune，如何了生脱死，离苦得乐，殊人无生。Sorry for the out of tune. The English one. Will the Sangha with great virtue, out of compassion, for the sake of this assembly and all living beings, please turn the wonderful Dharma wheel to teach us how to leave suffering and attain bliss, and end birth and death, and quickly realize non-birth.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Homage to the blessed, noble, and perfectly enlightened one. Namo sadanto suchetoye alahati sanmiao sanputo che. Wu shang shen shen wei miao fa, bai qian wan jie nan zao yi. 我今见闻得受者，愿解如来真实义。Supreme and wondrous Dharma, subtle and profound, rarely is encountered, even in a billion eons. But now we see and hear it and accept it reverently. May we truly understand the Buddha's actual meaning. Namo, quelling disasters, lengthening life. Medicine Master Buddha 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 Namo, quelling disasters, lengthening life. Medicine Master Buddha, Medicine Master does come one. 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 Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, Realm Master, and all good knowing advisors, welcome back to our exploration of the Dharma. This is class 109, right? Yeah, it's 109. So Swiling, the request for Dharma just now, I think you did really well. Because, the tune is not something that we, hold on, let me see. How do I go to the first slide? The tune is not something that we do every day, so it's very easy to forget. And what you did was correct. What I usually do when I forget the tune halfway is I just read it. Yeah, because the tune is not so important. It's just something we are used to. It's a custom, but it's the sincerity that counts. Okay, so today we have a question about in the Universal Door chapter of the Lotus Sutra, the Pumen Pin, about asking Guanyin for a son or a daughter, and if that really works. So it just so that I have a particular slide today. I think so. I think I have the slide. If not, I'll mention it. That talks about it as well. Before we go on to today on loving kindness, anyone else has any questions? You can either unmute or you can just type into the chat box. So we are still on the Brahma Viharas, as you can see. And then last week, we look at the 4 Brahma Viharas in general, how it has a huge influence on rebirth, especially if you're reborn in the heavens, because when you're born in the heavens, usually what happens is you can fall. But if you have the foundation of the Brahma Viharas, then it's like a one-way ticket, but in a good way. Normally, sometimes, when they say one-way ticket, it's not meant in a nice way, but this is a positive sense, in the sense that when you go to the heavens, you don't descend anymore, and you from the heavens you just continue in your journey to end birth and death. And then we explored the 11 benefits of loving kindness, and that's where we could see the similarities between the practice of loving kindness and Guanyin, and how that is very, very similar to in the Pumen Pin, the Universal Door chapter, when they say invoke Guanyin strength. You get the same benefits as you do if you practice loving kindness. So that gives us an insight into the invocation of Guanyin, if that's your Dharma door. Yeah. Okay, and then we ended last week with we started to talk about loving kindness as a practice, and we ended with the sutra that talks about beginning with oneself, because why? There is no one more important than yourself to you. For everyone else, how you say, it's like the world revolves around us. We are at the center of our universe. So the best place to start loving kindness, the practice of loving kindness, is to begin with loving kindness for yourself. Because if you're not happy with yourself, I think it is almost impossible to wish for happiness of others in a sincere way if you're not happy with yourself. All right. So let's look at how to develop loving kindness. Okay. So I have some text here from the Visuddhimagga. The Visuddhimagga is a text in the Pali Canon, and it's like a manual of how to, when it comes to meditation. It's a very thick section. It covers all the possible, I wouldn't say all the possible ways, but it covers all the meditational topics that the Buddha spoke about, and even more. Like sometimes the Buddha would just mention something very briefly. Excuse me. But in the Visuddhimagga, it would be expanded and put in great detail. So loving kindness starts with oneself. Okay, so I'll just read. It says, first of all, it should be developed only towards oneself, doing it repeatedly thus. May I be happy and free from suffering, or may I keep myself free from enmity, affliction, and anxiety, and live happily. You don't have to follow the words exactly, but you have to understand the spirit of the words. Okay, so if any of you are interested in practicing loving kindness, finding out the practice of Guanyin, or of all bodhisattvas, basically, then this is where you begin. Okay, but everyone is different. So although in the Visuddhimagga it says you start with, okay, not in the Visuddhimagga, but in some places they just mention you start with yourself, and it's just the wish that you are happy. For me personally, that doesn't do anything. Just wishing that I am happy doesn't seem to evoke feelings of loving kindness. for myself. So in my case, what works is the recollection of wholesome virtues. So we'll come to that. Okay, so just bear in mind that just if wishing for yourself to be happy doesn't do the trick, it doesn't make you happy with yourself or satisfied with yourself, then there are other ways as well, or you can come up with your own way. This is just a guide. Okay, so moving on, it says, however, if loving kindness is developed this way for 100 or 1,000 years in this way, I'm happy and so on, absorption will never arise. Meaning, if you just wish for your own happiness and you stop there, you might feel happy, but you will never enter dhyana or jhana. So that's what absorption means. Absorption is a form of concentration that you can say represents the dhyanas. So you never get there. It's not powerful enough. Okay. But if you develop it this way, say, I'm happy just as I want to be happy and dread pain, as I want to live and not to die, so do other beings too. And you make yourself the example, and then after you are the baseline for the happiness that you wish for yourself, you wish the same for others. Then the practice of loving kindness becomes more complete. And that is how you are able to enter dhyana. So the Buddha said, he gave a verse. The Buddha said, I visited all quarters with my mind, nor found I any dearer than myself. Self is likewise to every other dear. Who loves himself will never harm another. So the Visuddhimagga says, so the practitioner should first pervade themselves with loving kindness. So loving kindness, think of it as a two-part process. First for yourself, and then you have to include other people, but you start with yourself, okay? And then it says, to start with, the practitioner should review the danger in hate and the advantage in patience. Why hate and patience? Because they're linked to loving kindness. So it says why? Okay, because hate has to be abandoned and patience attained in the development of this meditation subject. And he cannot abandon unseen dangers and attain unknown advantages. Thereupon, he should embark upon the development of loving kindness for the purpose of secluding the mind from hate, seen as a danger, and introducing it to patience, known as an advantage. So hate or enmity or any kind of ill will that you harbor in your mind, either for yourself or for other people, we always think about hatred, ill will for others. But sometimes we can be harsh on ourselves as well. We can be too critical, or our expectations on ourselves can be very high. So when feelings of evil happens either to ourselves or others, it prevents the mind from resting. And then it also prevents patience from arising. When you find yourself having no patience at someone, you also find a lack of loving kindness, right? If you will see, the person may be very important to you, like family member, a spouse, a son, daughter, or someone related or not related, someone very important to you. But at those times when you lose patience with that person, you find that there's no loving kindness there. So loving kindness is linked to ill will and patience. Okay. So one of the ways that you may consider is in the Theravada tradition, depending on the text that they use, some of them either use the Metta Sutta, which we listened to from the Abhayagiri chanting, was it last week or week before? This is an alternative. So there's a chant that goes, may I have no enmity, may I have no hurtfulness, may I have no troubles of mind and body, may I be able to protect my own happiness. And then you continue with whatever beings they are, may they have no enmity. Whatever beings they are, may they have no hurtfulness, may they have no troubles of mind and body, may they be able to protect their own happiness. So this is the same formula. First, you start with yourself, and then the same things that you want for yourself, you are able to wish for others to have it. And it's not just people, it is beings, all living beings. Okay, so animals, any living creatures. Then when it comes to recollecting one's wholesomeness, so this is not just wishing happiness for yourself, but this goes a level. To me, this is more powerful. Okay, recollecting your own virtues. So the text says, and the layman should recollect them in the form of layman's virtue, while one gone forth into hopelessness should recollect them in the form of the virtue of those gone forth. Meaning, the expectations you should set for yourself, or the standards, the minimum standard for yourself, or the examples that you aspire to, should be according to your station. So don't go and compare yourself to Guanyin in a way that ends up being how you say de deconstructive. Yeah, deconstructive. Yeah. If you're a layperson, then you want to use something like the 5 precepts, the 8 precepts. Then naturally, if you're a left-home person, you use the bhikshu or the bhikshuni precepts, because that's what's expected of you. You don't compare yourself to another person who is at a different level, and if you can't match up, then you don't be unreasonable. Yeah, basically, don't be unreasonable. So the text says, as long as he or she recollects his own virtues in their special qualities of being untorn meaning you try to hold them to the best of your ability. You sometimes people say holding them perfectly, but it can be very hard if you're just starting out and you still have your old habits. So I rather interpret untorn as into the best of your ability. Then text says, on that occasion, his mind is not obsessed by greed or obsessed by hate or obsessed by delusion. His mind has rectitude on that occasion, being inspired by virtue. Now, when a man is truly wise, his constant task will surely be this recollection of his virtue, blessed with such mighty potency. So a lot of the practice, especially for lay people, has to do with recollection of your wholesomeness. And this is very important when, say, you kind of know that your time is up, or you're sick and you're not sure if you can recover, or just before you meditate, basically, like when you want to recite the Buddha's name, you recollect your wholesomeness. You concentrate on the good things that you have done. What good things you have done? Well, taking refuge with the triple jewel, for example, practicing the precepts, practicing generosity, practicing loving kindness, being able to draw near the Dharma, being able to, be a disciple of Shufu, for example. All these things, all these wholesome things that will, in this slide, it says, it will naturally remove greed, anger, and delusion from the mind. It calms the mind down. It gives you a very stable, wholesome foundation for your practice. Yeah. Okay. So, having said that, what we're going to do now is we're going to explore the various things that if you're interested in developing loving kindness, and you should all be very, very interested in developing loving kindness. Let's look at generosity as one of the first things that how we can recollect our own generosity. Okay, so it says, one who wants to develop the recollection of generosity should be naturally devoted to generosity and the constant practice of giving and sharing. It means that if you want to recollect generosity, you must have practiced generosity so that you have something to recollect. Okay, and it should be a constant practice. It should be a way of life. Okay, says, or alternatively, if he is one who is starting the development of it, that means you haven't, really given yourself a chance to practice generosity before, then you should make the resolution from now on, when there is anyone present to receive, I shall not eat even a single mouthful without having given a gift. Okay. Okay, let me read the rest. It says, and that very day he should give a gift by sharing according to his means and his ability with those who have distinguished qualities. So right after you make that resolve to give, okay, then you should begin. And here it says, with those who have distinguished qualities, one deserving of offerings, but you don't, you can give whenever there's an opportunity. And giving doesn't, we've covered giving and generosity before. So I hope all of you remember, it doesn't have to be something that's financial. It doesn't have to have a value of, is there another word for financial value? Yeah, it doesn't need to be worth something in that sense. Like it doesn't need to be money. It can be your time. You can volunteer your time. It can be things that you don't use anymore, but very, very useful. You're not getting rid of things, but you're actually giving people things that they can use. It can be giving kind words. It can be sharing the Dharma. That's one of the best forms of giving. It can be being a good friend, being a good wife, being a good husband, being a good mother, daughter, all these things. Okay, there's a lot of ways to give. Okay, so this sentence, the one highlighted in orange, from now on, when there is anyone present to receive, I shall not eat even a single mouthful. That comes from the Buddha himself. Okay, the Buddha said, okay, and I'll share it with you. I have it. It's from the Iti Wutaka number 26. The Buddha says, if beings knew as I know the results of giving and sharing, they would not eat without having given, nor would the stain of selfishness overcome their minds. Even if it were their last bite, their last mouthful, they would not eat without having shared, if there was someone to receive their gift. But because beings do not know, as I know, the results of giving and sharing, they eat without having given. The stain of selfishness overcomes their minds. Having given food as an offering to those worthy of offerings, many donors, when they pass away from here to the human state, go to heaven. They, having gone there to heaven, rejoice, enjoying sensual pleasures. Unselfish, they partake of the result of sharing. So that's coming directly from the Buddha. So this reminds me of a story that I've shared. Just let me get drink some water first. Excuse me. So we all know in the temple, before we eat, we make offerings to the Buddha before we eat, and technically before we consume anything, we should always, at least in our mind, okay, be mindful. So this reminds me of a story where and also if you have taken the Bodhisattva precepts, that's what you do. Yeah. So everything, like when you go shopping, you come back, it becomes a natural thing where you take a portion and you put it on your altar as an offering to the Buddha. So it becomes part of your daily practice. So this story is about Shofu, and who told me this story? I don't remember who told me this story, or did I read it somewhere? Okay, doesn't matter. So this story was like this. They went to the dining hall, and I think I did read it, and someone also told me because someone was there. So they went to the dining hall, and they saw that at every place there was a piece of white rabbit candy. White rabbit candy is a very nice milk candy, very soft and chewy from China. So then Shofu came, sat down, smiled at everyone, and said, today all of you have a piece of white rabbit candy. It was offered to me and it's my favorite candy. And because it is my favorite candy, I wanted to share it with all of you. Do you all understand? That was Shufu. He ended his explanation with a question. Do you all understand? So if any of you have ever given away or shared something that was your favorite, you might understand what Shufu was trying to say about the joy of giving. There is no greater joy of giving than to give the very thing that brings you the greatest joy. I'm not sure if that makes sense or not. I'm not sure if that's a reality that anyone can experience, because there's the converse to that on the other extreme. The other extreme is a hungry ghost. You become a hungry ghost when you are extremely selfish, when you do not want to share anything, and the thought of sharing something that is most precious to you boggles your mind. You can't even imagine why someone would want to do that. That's the mind of a hungry ghost. Yeah. In the Ulambana Sutra, when Venerable Mahamoggallana found his mother who was reborn as a hungry ghost, he used his spiritual abilities to bring his mother a bowl of rice. And when he offered it to the mother snatched it from him. And the first thing she did was to hide the rice from everyone, so no one would be able to see that she had the bowl of rice. That was her instinct. That was her habit. And that is a common trait in hungry ghosts. Yeah. But if on the other extreme, if you haven't tried it, maybe you can imagine, imagine a little boy or girl, still fairly innocent. I'm not sure how many years old that would be, maybe like 5 to 8 years old, and they get something which they like very much, maybe candy or something. But the first thing that they think of is to give it to either their grandmother or their grandparents they want to share. And they're just filled with innocence, and they don't think about how giving it away would deprive them of their own enjoyment. It doesn't even occur to them. All they think about is, this is really nice, and I want someone else who I care about, want them to enjoy it. Yeah, think of it that way. Yeah. Okay. All right. So that's the Shufu story about what Shufu did. Okay. Why does thinking about or recollecting your own acts of generosity is a good thing? Well, because giving is a good thing. It brings you benefits. So there's this sutra called the Dananusamsanidesa Sutta. Okay, teaching the benefits of generosity. And in this sutra, it's a very short sutra. The Buddha talks about 37 ways that a wise person can practice generosity. And what are the 37 ways? So I didn't include all 37. If you're interested, you can read it yourself. I just included a few. So some of them is when they're given a gift that does not harm others, the ripening is that they will acquire great generosity. Okay. So does not harm others means you give with loving kindness. And if you remember, right intention that creates merit, doing something with harmlessness is considered as merit making. Okay, so second one, when they have given a gift that is abundant, the ripening is that they will acquire abundant wealth. What is a gift that is abundant? Well, maybe someone ask you for, you take someone out for dinner, and maybe just 2 dishes will be enough. Okay, but because you want them to try all the local delicacies and you just want them to be happy, you order more food. It's not about wasting the food, although someone can say that, but it's about letting them try and be happy, and you have their well-being in mind. Okay, so something like that, giving abundant more than what they ask for, because you want them to enjoy. When they have given a gift of food, the ripening is that they will acquire the elimination of hunger in all future lives. Have any of you experienced hunger? Not hunger like you just miss lunch or dinner and you undergo hunger, but where you have no choice. If you have not, then it is probably because you have given gifts of food before. And if you want to avoid feeling hunger in future lives, that's what you do. You give gifts of food. Next one, when they have given a gift of drink, the ripening is that they will acquire the elimination of thirst in all future lives. Okay. When they have given a gift of clothing, the ripening is that they will acquire a manifold wealth of clothing. When you give dwelling, you will acquire houses with parapets and multiple stories, and they will acquire courtyards, mansions, palaces, gardens, parks, and lands. So giving a dwelling is not easy. It's very hard to find yourself in the fortunate position where you can actually give a dwelling, which is probably why most of us don't really, live in houses that are featured on TVs, that make people wish that, oh, I wish I had that house kind of thing. So if you do want to get a house like that in the future, then you can consider trying to give a dwelling or contribute towards that. Yeah. Or giving shelter, like sometimes there are what you call animal shelters that gives houseless animals a place to live. You can contribute towards that as well. Given the gift of a conveyance that is like a vehicle, the ripening is that they will acquire the 4 bases of miraculous power. What are the 4 bases of miraculous power? That's determination, discernment or wisdom, diligence, and concentration. Very useful for, or not useful, essential for practice. Yeah. When you give medicine, you will acquire the nirvana that is free from aging and death, and is the cessation of sorrow and defilement. So this medicine is not just medicine, okay, although it includes regular medicine, but it's the medicine of the Dharma as well, okay. Then next one is when you give the gift of the Dharma, the ripening is that you will acquire the recollection of former lives. Do you remember your past lives? If not, then maybe you haven't given a gift of Dharma before. Okay, then the last 4 has to do with our topic. The last 4 are the Brahma Viharas. You give while abiding in loving kindness. You can't give loving kindness. You can radiate loving kindness, but when you give and your heart is filled with loving kindness, then you will acquire freedom from ill will. Everyone will like you. No one will speak ill of you or don't like you or be jealous of you. You will be in everyone's favorable books. When you give with a heart of compassion, you acquire harmlessness, meaning no one will harm you. And when you give while abiding in joy or empathetic joy, you have the ability to bestow fearlessness. That's Guanyin. Okay, Guanyin has the ability to bestow fearlessness. She gives you courage. So how you get that? How do you be like Guanyin? You give with a heart of empathetic joy. And finally, if you can give and remain unmoved, meaning you give with a heart that's rooted in equanimity, you will rid yourself of sadness. You won't feel sad. You always be happy. Maybe not happy, but at least you won't be sad. Yeah. Okay. So moving on, other contemplations that you can do when it comes to generosity is to think it is a gain for me it is gain for me for a giver who has. Wait, I think I might have accidentally deleted a few words. Let me see if I can read it again. Herein, it is gain for me for a giver has been commanded. Oh, okay. It is a gain for me to give, for a giver has been commended by the Blessed One as follows. A man who gives life by giving food shall have life either divine or human. So in other words, the Buddha has complimented people who give. So if you give, then it's good for you. Then freed from the stain of avarice or greediness, or selfishness, I abide with my heart. I live the home life with my heart free. So as a lay person, you have a free, your heart is free of all the things that could make it sad. Let's just say that. Freely generous, open-handed, I delight in relinquishing and rejoice in sharing. So you can see how someone with a practice or habit of generosity and is able to look at themselves or have the view of themselves in this way, how it gives rise to loving kindness for oneself. Okay. Then there are more. It says, it is gain for me. It is a great gain for me, not just a gain, but a great gain, that in a generation obsessed by the stain of avarice or selfishness, I abide with my heart free from stain by avarice and am freely generous and open-handed, that I delight in relinquishing, expect to be asked, and rejoice in giving and sharing. So it's not just giving, but you expect to be asked. That means your mind is always on the lookout for any opportunities to help others. It says, as long as he or she recollects his own generosity in its special qualities of freedom from stain by avarice, in this way, then on that occasion, his or her mind is not obsessed by greed or obsessed by hate or obsessed by delusion, the three poisons. Okay, you don't have the three poisons occupying space in your mind. His mind has rectitude on that occasion, being inspired by generosity. Okay, and then, okay, at this point, all right, let me ask Ron a question, because I think Ron, maybe 2 days ago, might have attended a talk at Berkeley Monastery on loving kindness. Is there anything, Ron, that you think might be worth sharing? I don't mean to put you on the spot. You can type it in the chat box if you prefer.
Actually, it was a good experience, but I got there late. So I think that what I can say is that I don't want to say anything that's because I myself am not really knowledgeable about this topic, so I won't make any statement on that. But I would say that this is definitely worthwhile, worth our time to investigate and understand.
Okay, thanks, Ron. That's very good, because just 2 weeks ago, you said that it seems, I got the impression that you felt it was near impossible to develop loving kindness or something like that. It's very, very good to see that you have a very, very different perspective.
I will share this one thing. Like, I don't know what loving kindness is, but I know when I see a kind person, or when I'm treated kindly and in a generous way. So I use that thought, and I say to myself, when I I made a little chant for myself, and I'll just share it. I say that I hope that all my thoughts are rooted in loving kindness. Whenever I think, may all my thoughts be rooted in loving kindness, and I may I have my thoughts imbued with loving kindness.
Great. That sounds like what we are trying to do right now. Yeah. Okay, let's look at the next few slides. All right. So, another thing is both a result of generosity as well as something that you can reflect. One of the virtues or wholesomeness that you can reflect about yourself and feel good is being reborn as a human. Okay, so it says, it is great gain for me. It is great gain for me that this dispensation, meaning the Dharma of the Buddha, or the, or the teachings of the Buddha, or the human state, that means the result of having studied the Dharma, has been gained by me. Why? Because of the fact that I abide with my mind free from stain by avarice or selfishness and rejoice in giving and sharing. And when a practitioner is devoted to this recollection of generosity, he becomes ever more intent on generosity. His preference is for non-greed. He acts in conformity with loving kindness. He is fearless. He has much happiness and gladness. So in other words, when you, and we'll come to this human state later, okay? Right now, I just highlighted it so that you make a mental note of it. So the result of recollecting your acts of generosity is that you slowly realize the effect it has on your life as you practice giving and generosity, and you want to do it more because it's like how you say, like the Buddha said, you will never, even your last mouthful, if you understood the benefits of sharing or the impact of sharing, you will never eat without sharing. So it is, how you say, it is like you invest. There's this scheme where for every dollar you put in, you'll get back $10. You know, uh, who would not want to invest? Right? You would be fighting with other people to invest. You would maybe even go hungry, not spend money on food so that you can invest maybe $5, then get back $50. You know why? Because it's too good to be true. But that's the thing. Most people, because we lack the ability to understand cause and effect, and we don't have the wisdom to be able to see how what we do now in terms of cause and effect has an impact on either our future self or our future lives. So we don't have that zeal or that vigor or that belief in generosity. But the Buddha said, if only you knew, okay, if only you knew that for every dollar you invest, you're going to get back $10, guaranteed $10, then no, you will never fail to not give. You will never ever pass up on a chance to give. You would always be on the lookout. A bodhisattva is always on the lookout to give. Yeah, even to the extent of giving up the body. Because how the bodhisattva sees it is like this. The bodhisattva says, okay, my body is impermanent. It is subject to decay. You know, so it's like you have a car that is breaking down. You know, I actually had a car that was breaking down before. And when I had the opportunity to sell it, I was so happy because then I wouldn't have the problem of having to maintain the car, and because I knew that the gearbox was going to spoil. It was already starting to give problems, and to repair the gearbox would cost almost as much as the car was worth. And to be able to get rid of the car made me so happy. So the bodhisattva sees the body in that way. That's how, and they say that if I give up this body that's going to decay, grow old, and die, in return, I'm going to get something so much better. And at the same time, I'm going to help all these living beings by giving up my body. You know, of course, I would do it. But for people who don't understand cause and effect, and who are still attached to the body, it's almost unthinkable. So a lot of us, we are attached to our wealth and the things that we hold dear. And so the Buddha says, if only people knew the benefits of giving, he would never ever give up the chance to turn your $1 into $10. Okay. All right. So that's why it says once you start to see, you become more intent on generosity. You willingly want to do more. Okay. All right. Then moving on, it says, so when he has suppressed the hindrances in the way already described, the jhana or dhyana, this is Chan, the Chan factors arise in a single conscious moment. But owing to the profundity of the generosity's special qualities, or owing to his being occupied in recollecting the generosity's special qualities of many sorts, the jhana is only access and does not reach absorption. And that access jhana is known as recollection of generosity too, because it arises with the generosity's special qualities as the means. Okay, this very long, fairly confusing sentence just means that if you do this well, okay, if you do this well, you can get very, very close to the first dhyana. But it says that it is absorption only. It is excess concentration at the level of excess concentration and not absorption. That means you're not deep yet, but it gets you there, almost there. Okay. Then when you have loving kindness, then you go all the way. Okay. So that's how powerful recollecting just one of your virtues, just recollecting generosity itself. Yeah. So one of the things that we looked at earlier was human birth, right? Cherishing human birth, and why that was one of the things that you can be, I guess, proud of, or that you, I think, let me see, proud of. Is there a better word?
Grateful, I think.
What is that, Ron? You need to speak louder. You're a bit soft.
I said grateful.
Yes, grateful. Yeah, grateful. Grateful is a very, very good word. One of the things that you can be grateful of for your past self, in your past life, that has cultivated to the point that you got a fortunate human rebirth, is because it is very, very hard, according to the Buddha, to get a human rebirth. Okay, so there are a few suttas. I chose this. It's called the Chigala. Chigala means whole. Okay, the Chigala Sutta. And the Buddha is explaining how difficult it is to be born a human. Okay, the Buddha says, suppose that this great earth were totally covered with water. So there's no land. Okay, the entire earth is water, one big sea. It says, and a man were to toss a yoke with a single hole there. I'm not sure what a yoke is. Is it like a piece of wood? Someone can look it up. Google yoke. Yes, Ron?
I'm familiar that a yoke is like when you get like an oxen to pull the plow, you put the yoke on the oxen's neck.
Oh, okay.
That's the yoke, I believe. That's one definition of a yoke.
Yes, you are correct. Let me see. Let me put it on screen. There you see the exactly as Ron described. Okay, so basically it's something with a hole. All right, take something with a hole. Okay, and the Buddha says you toss this yoke with a single hole, and then a wind from the east will push it west because it comes from the east, so it goes in the opposite direction. Then a wind from the west will push it east, and then north, south, not south, east, west, meaning the yoke made from wood floats on water, and it just floats and gets blown randomly. It says, and suppose a blind sea turtle were there. Okay, it's just a sea turtle, but it's blind, doesn't know what it's doing. And it comes to the surface once every 100 years. And Buddha says, would that blind sea turtle coming to the surface once every 100 years stick his neck into the yoke with a single hole? I guess maybe blind turtle makes sense, because if it's a turtle with sight, it would avoid the yoke. Why would it want to stick his head through this hole in the piece of wood? And then you will never get chance to be reborn as human. So it has to be a blind turtle. Okay. So anyway, the answer from the monks was it would be a sheer coincidence, Lord, that the blind sea turtle coming to the surface once every 100 years will stick his neck onto the yolk with a single hole. Okay. And the Buddha said, it's likewise a sheer coincidence that one obtains the human state. It's likewise a sheer coincidence that the Tathagata, worthy and rightly self-awakened, arises in the world. It's likewise a sheer coincidence that a doctrine and discipline expounded by a Tathagata appears in the world. Now this human state has been obtained. A Tathagata, worthy and rightly self-awakened, has arisen in the world. A doctrine and discipline expounded by a Tathagata appears in the world. Therefore, your duty is the contemplation. This is stress. This is the origination of stress. These are the Four Noble Truths, by the way. The first one is knowing what is affliction or stress. Second one is knowing the origination of stress, or where the stress come from, the root of stress, which is clinging. Okay, for those of you who don't know, this is a cessation of stress, meaning there is a way to end stress. Okay, let me see, 1, 2, 3. There's a fourth one. Knowing. Okay, and then the fourth one is the way out of the solution to the ending of stress, which is the Noble Eightfold Path. And then the Buddha says, your duty is the contemplation. Okay, that's the fourth one. This is the path of practice leading to the cessation of stress. So that's the fourth Noble Truth. So this sutra introduces a few other things that you should be very, very grateful now in your existence. Number one, that you have a human state. Okay. Not Ron, do you have something to say? No?
I'm sorry.
Okay, and I'm going to meet you. Okay. So first, you have done something right to be born as a human. Okay, because it's not easy to get a human birth. Okay, so you must have done something right. Number two, not just done something right to be born a human, but to be born very, very close when the Buddha was around. Okay, 3,500 years ago is a very, very short time compared to if you look at the sutras, when you see the Buddha talk about time and kalpas and all that, being born very, like 3,000 years from the Buddha's time is very, very close. Okay. And because it's very, very close, the Dharma still exists in the world. And not just being born when the Dharma exists. There are a lot of people that are existing right now with the Dharma, but they are as far away from the Dharma as we are from the sun or the moon. You know, there's no way to get there. When I mean far, I don't mean like physical distance. What I mean is that there's no way you can get there, you know. So, but that's not our case. In our case, we are very close to the Dharma. You could say that maybe, at least in I know for myself, like, you know, I can say I'm fairly immersed in the Dharma. Yeah, I'm not sure about everyone else, but you have a very strong connection to the Dharma. So we have very strong connection to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, right? So those are other things that we can recollect, and I will introduce those in future lectures. Today we have kind of run out of time. Okay, one of the things, okay, being close to the Dharma that we can be grateful for are all the benefits that the Dharma presents to us. That if you look at the world, if you look at the population of the world, and okay, for example, this particular sutra, okay, I'll show you the next slide, then it makes more sense. This particular sutra, the Medicine Master Buddha Sutra. In this sutra, there are a lot of benefits of knowing the Dharma. And if you look at the state of the world right now, how many people are familiar with the Medicine Master Buddha Sutra? Okay, number one. Number two, how many people are actually actively participating in a lecture on the Medicine Master Buddha Sutra? Not many. Okay, if you look at the YouTube views that this lecture gets is, if I was concerned about views, I would be very embarrassed. Okay, but that doesn't matter because you're all listening. That's what matters. So you are in a very, very you're in a position where you should be very, very grateful for yourself. Okay, and I'm not going to go through it today because that's the question. But there's a lot of benefits to just one sutra. Okay, just one sutra. Okay, let me see. Okay, so there's a question about wishing for or asking Guanyin for a son or a daughter, and that's related to the Universal Door chapter or the Pumen Pin or the Lotus Sutra. Okay, I think that might be a slide from the Medicine Master Buddha Sutra. I'm going to quickly go through, okay, and see if I have it here. Let me see. Maybe I didn't include it in this sutra. Yeah, sorry, in today's slides. But what I'll do is this. Okay, hold on. Let me see if I can quickly have it. Okay, so basically, while I look for it, all right, I will narrate a story, okay, to y'all. So what the Universal Door chapter says is this: if you wish for a son, or okay, let me share it on screen. Okay, this is the first Universal Door chapter that I found, so it may not. There are others, but I will just use this now. Okay. Let me increase the size. Okay. So Sriling has a question and is on this part of the Universal Door chapter. It says, if women seeking sons bow to and make offerings to the Bodhisattva Guanxue Yin, they will give birth to sons happy, virtuous, and wise. Instead, if instead they wish for daughters, they will bear gifted daughters with deep-rooted, wholesome characters, beloved and respected by all. So Sriling, do you want to ask your question again? Was your question like, is this true, or what was your exact question again? Are you there?
Yeah, my question is whether whatever you wish for, whether it's a son or a daughter, will Kuan Yin fulfill this wish of yours? And if it is being fulfilled, will that son or daughter be, as stated in the sutra, be wise, be noble, or whatever?
Okay. All right. What I do have in the slides already is, if you look at your screen, you look at the second paragraph, they will obtain whatever they seek. Those who seek long life will attain longevity. Those who seek wealth will gain wealth. Those who seek, there you go, the son and daughter. Those who seek an official position will obtain it, and those who seek a son or a daughter will have one. Okay, what do you need to do to obtain what you want, what you are seeking? In this passage of the Medicine Master Buddha Sutra, it says, when you play musical instruments and you sing praises, like what we do in the Buddha Hall every morning to Medicine Master Buddha, you circumambulate clockwise around the Buddha's image. You recall the merit and virtue of Medicine Master Buddha's past vows. You read and recite this sutra, ponder its meaning, and lecture on and explain it. Okay, I'm lecturing on it, I'm explaining it, but I don't want a daughter or son, but maybe I can get something else. Okay. Then Shakyamuni Buddha said you will obtain whatever you seek. Okay, all right. So I don't have to look for the sutra to show you the son and daughter, because this is it. So let me tell you a story. Okay, one of Shufu's disciples. Okay, and when she's from Taiwan. And I know her. And when she actually asked Guanyin for help for her son, because she was told by the doctors in Taiwan that medically she was unable to conceive. So based on science, the doctor said she would not be able to conceive a baby. I'm not sure what the details were. So I think she asked Shofu for help, something like that.
Hello，我冇
Yes.
你講係呢度買唔到嗰啲，咁我哋係 overseas 嘛？呢度買得到，使乜咁麻煩？做咩咁多嘢？
Okay, I thought someone had something to say, but not related. Okay, so I think she asked Shofu. I'm not sure about that, but she did ask Guanyin for help, and she managed to conceive a baby boy, much to the astonishment of her doctors. And I know her son. Her son's name is, we call him Xiao Jinggang. I think he's maybe in his late 20s or his 30s, early 30s now. Yeah, he's very tall. I'm not sure if he's handsome or not, but he's very tall. He has a very, very pleasant disposition. He's always happy. And I knew him at CDTB because he would come from Taiwan and he would volunteer at CDTB. And he's a very good cook. So when I was visiting Yu Gui, which is our branch monastery in Taiwan, where Chin Fan Shi is there now, taking care of Liu Gui, when they have Fa Huis, he will go there and cook as a volunteer cook. And if you want an understanding of the kind of person he is, so as he was a teenager, he was already spending his holidays at CDTB, volunteering at CDTB. And every weekend, there's a monastery in Taiwan. There's a very famous monastery in Taiwan from a nun. And this monastery has some connections with Dharma Master Heng Che and some of the bhikshunis when they first went to Taiwan. Somehow or other, our nuns, I think at that time we didn't have many lay people in Taiwan, or there was something happened, and this nun, abbess of her monastery, she knew that our nuns did not get enough support in terms of food, something like that. And she instructed her nuns to send food to Dharma Master Heng Che and some of the other, I think Dharma Master Heng Yin as well, who was staying in one of the places in Taiwan. So this nun is no longer around, but her reputation is well known in Taiwan. And this monastery, which we visited as well during our delegation to Taiwan, gets busloads of visitors who make a pilgrimage to this particular monastery. And every weekend, Xiao Jinggang will volunteer by cooking. I think they're famous for a noodle dish, and he would volunteer and cook every weekend at the temple. Yeah, which is probably why he's always so happy. His generosity. Yeah. So that's a true story of someone who's known to a lot of people in DRBA about someone who was told medically that she could not conceive. She asked Guanyin. She told Guanyin she wanted her baby boy, and she got a boy. And yep. So there you go, Sui-Ling. All right. Okay. There are other stories as well, but because those are not there are stories that I've heard, but I don't have. I don't know if they're real or not, so I won't mention them. Yeah.
Yeah, Dharma Master, since you were just talking about Bhikshuni Hen In, can I ask something?
Yeah, of course. I mean, yeah.
Bhikshuni Heng In was once upon a time, she has left the home life. I mean, she has disrobed, right?
Depending on which Dharma Master Heng In, but okay, if yes, what
the one
okay, and your question is?
My question is formerly when she was a bhikshuni, she sang some Buddhist songs, and
Yes.
one of them is the Way Out West. Way Out West. Do you know her song? Okay.
I know that she sang songs, and we actually have a record, an album of her songs. Yes.
Yes. So one of the songs that she sang was Way Out West, and I have her record, and my son is very into this song Way Out West, and he wants to sing this song, but he needs her permission because it's her song as she has written and sang it. So is there any way I can contact her to ask her permission to sing this song?
Okay. I'm not sure because I can try to find out if there's a way to contact her, but if the copyright is DRBA, then yeah, okay, that's not okay. That's a different question, different topic.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, I'll get back to you on that.
Okay,
anyone
thanks.
else? Any questions or anything to share? Yes, no, yes. Okay. Then let us. I've gone beyond time again. Sorry about that. Okay, let's dedicate merit. Okay. May every living being, our minds as one and radiant with light, share the fruits of peace with hearts of goodness, luminous and bright. If people hear and see how hands and hearts can find in giving unity, may our minds awake to great compassion, wisdom, and to joy. May kindness find reward. May all who sorrow leave their grief and pain. May this boundless light dispel the darkness of our endless night. Because our hearts are one, this world of pain turns into paradise. May all become compassionate and wise. May all become compassionate and wise. Okay, let's do 3 bows to the Buddha. Just let me change my audio so you can. Okay, 3 bows to the Buddha. Second bow. Third bow. Half bow. Bowing respect to the Venerable Master. Second bow. Third bow. Half bow. Okay, everyone. Amitabha, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you.
Thank you, Master.
Thank you, Dharma Master.